Real estate.
Good afternoon. Paul and Randy Marshall will lead us in our invocation.
Bow for prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we're so grateful to get here today with our friends to be able to enjoy our passion. We ask the things we do here, Lord, all being things that would honor you, Lord, and we ask your blessings on everything we do here. We ask that you take care of our members, and we ask for good health and happiness for our members and our family and our community, Lord. We pray for our president now and our elected officials as we go through troubled times in America. We just ask that your will be done, Lord. We ask all these things in your name, and we thank you for your most precious gift. That's the grace that you've given us through your Son. In Jesus' name.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Stand and you see, I don't believe once a brotherly we had, and the twilight's last gleam whose reserves and bright stars through the perilous field. The ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, those bursting in came through the night. Their flag was so clear. Who sang us that star-spangled banner?
Thank you. Be seated, please. Johnny, would you like to introduce any guests? Brandon's going to give you the microphone.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of guests. Our third one I'm going to save soon because they're going to be one of our guest speakers. But today with us, Ms. Amanda Fulmar has invited Mr. Kelly Williams. Let's go ahead and give him a warm welcome. Our organization in town, so glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. Also, we have Mr. Glenn Green. Let me give you a little background here. Retired after 35 years from the Tyler District Engineer. Currently serving as the RMA Executive Director. Yes, Ms. Colleen, glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. And then back here with us, we have Mr. JD. Let's give it for Mr. JD. And then obviously we have Mr. Martinez here with Tom Hall, and I'll let them talk a little bit more about that next week.
Do you want to go ahead and do your member spotlight?
Absolutely. Perfect. Yeah. Mr. Roberto, come on down. We're going to get this all knocked out in one fell swoop. How about that? Talk about effective and efficient all at the same time. So how many have enjoyed this member spotlight? It's been pretty interesting. We've had a lot of good feedback from guys. It's always great to be able to get to know the people of South Tyler Rotary. And today, we get our new member, Mr. Roberto Bonico, correct? All right, and so we're just going to be introducing him, kind of letting you know what he is, who he is, what he does, that type of stuff. So Mr. Roberto, let's just talk about family first. Tell us a little bit about yourself and about your family and how you ended up here.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. Yes. My name is Roberto Rico. I was born in Bolivia and grew up in Brazil. My grandfather was from Scotland. He was a mechanical engineer who worked for the British Empire. That's in the 1900s. And he went to Bolivia to build the railroad between Antofagasta, Chile, and rural Bolivia. And he, as a mechanical engineer, was responsible for that project, 10-year project. And he wrote a lot of documents by himself. And when I turned 13 years old, that was my inspiration to be an engineer myself. I was foremost a mechanical engineer. I was trained as a process engineer in Norway by the company Statoil in Norway, actually Equinor. And I ended up working for Petrobras, a national company in Brazil, for many years. And I was responsible for the project that was basically the first natural gas plant built outside Brazil, in Bolivia. And I began being a Rotarian first with my dad. My dad was retired president for the District 9640 in South America. And I began my master's at Home University, and I was invited to do my doctoral also at the university when I came here in the United States. But I grew up in a multicultural family that is, like say, my grandma was from Bolivia, my grandma was from Scotland, my mom was from Bolivia. I grew up in Brazil, and I speak four languages. I speak Spanish, English, Portuguese, and French. I understand some German also, because I grew up close to the German original family too. And because of that culture and this understanding, that was easy for me to travel around the world, working as an engineer for Petrobras initially, and for different other companies later. And when I came here also, Shell was looking for a process engineer when Shell was transferring the asset for the Saco facility in West Texas to Kinder Morgan. And one of the VPs in Shell at the time, he was initially believed up in Worldwide finance these big projects, gas plants, pipelines in Bolivia, and he looked for me for help there when he was in Bolivia and helped me. But when I arrived, he told me he was looking for a process engineer to be joining the team. Shell transferring to Kinder Morgan. And I said, I need to ask my teachers if I can be released from the doctoral program. I requested a release and went to the interview and was hired to be a process engineer for gas plant. That was the biggest gas plant I worked in my life. It was 1.2 billion for the Saco facility. It's a very old field in West Texas, Permian Basin. And basically, there was a bit of my career, and I ended up not doing the doctoral degree. I began working. It was the best salary I received in my life. I was initially in a national company that trains you very well. Maybe similar to the military, very well trained, but maybe the best pay is not there. But I had the best pay because I enjoyed it. My wife didn't like too much because we were living in a small town, Snyder, Texas, for 3 years and a half. But later I went to work for Conoco. Conoco invited me to work in Denver. I was a senior manager there in Denver for 4.5 years. And until the price of oil came down, and I was working for a manufacturing company working with process equipment, electronic equipment for some time, until Equinor looked for me to be a manager for a project we were developing in North Dakota. Not happy place, no, this is going good. But they were looking for a journey that can help transfer the procedures they had in Europe to the United States. And because I was very familiar with procedures, I helped them to be successful until Delhi could find me here locally, hired me to be I was responsible for identity. I was what is called manager and assistant for the availability team. And basically, I also began my company in 2016 doing consulting, and I continue actually doing the same thing. When the price came down, when the COVID virus came down, also I returned to my own company because my partner, who is a doctor in process engineering, he's actually retired. He was handling the company before me when I came here, and actually I continued with my company. Actually, doing some projects outside the United States, very interesting projects, mainly working in the non-conventional energy, mostly than oil and gas. I was doing all my career. Basically, we have to learn sometimes, and unlearn something we learn from oil and gas, but actually, what the training I have or the experience I have is transferable. The skills are transferable. And I'm here basically to create more jobs for people, try to help develop the town, the city, and help people to be successful. That's why I'm here. And my family, also, my wife, she's from Bolivia, her mom is from Croatia, and we know each other in Bolivia. We have 3 kids, and they are in school, local school here. The oldest is 14, the second one is 10, the third one is 4. I have work to do next time with that. This one. But I enjoy that. And I work with my neighbors also. The majority of my neighbors are quite old. I live not far from here. I live in New Copeland, Churchill Drive. And the majority of my neighbors, almost 90%, are over 60, most are retired. And I help them in many things. So we coordinate with things each other. And my sister lives in Bolivia. She's a medical doctor. She's an oncologist. She's a member of the Chicago Medical Board also. She comes every year to the United States. And my father also was an accountant. He was CFO in a mining company in South America. And he didn't like to be an engineer. He decided not to prefer to be an accountant. Basically, I was the only one that decided to follow my grandfather's career. That's it.
Bonjour. This was awesome. He answered all my questions, kept me out of it. For all of you that have left to come here on YouTube, make sure family, occupation, recreation, will be fun. It's awesome. Thank you. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Okay, I told Tony he was going to leave the meeting because he was doing the guest, he was doing this, and then he has an announcement
Yes.
about orientation.
Yes, for you new members that haven't had a chance to come to new member orientation, Lee Montgomery and myself are going to be leading a orientation webinar on Zoom next Tuesday, starting at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock. So if you haven't had a chance, or if you haven't seen on the, if you didn't see your email, definitely go on your email, double check it. We're going to send out the link. If you're interested, please contact me either via Club Runner or through the Facebook link, and we'll get that information to you. If you are a veteran Rotarian, you want to come to meet some of the new ones and just kind of get reoriented over Rotary, please welcome. The more the merrier, absolutely. And the more people we have, the more fun it gets, and the more people we get to know and be around. All right?
All right, I think I'm gonna let Johnny sit down now. Tom DeWitt, will you make your way up here, please? While he's on his way up, I want to remind everybody that we do not meet next Monday. Next Monday is the Columbus Day holiday, and so South Tyler Rotary will not be meeting. If you are off work, maybe you can find something fun to do in this beautiful weather that we've been having lately. And now that Tom DeWitt is up here, I am going to ask for him to help me pass out some bling today.
Well, tell her who needs to come up.
Okay, then I have Jeff Johnson and John Hart and Tom Mullins. Tom's like, what? Yes. So, since Tom was really surprised about this, do you want to talk about it? Okay, I'll let Tom do this. Too many Toms and Johns.
Makes it simple. A few minutes ago, I told Scott that the single best decision made by this community since Ann and I came here in '83 is the hiring and the entrusting the future of this community to Tom Mullins. He's my neighbor, he's my friend, and he has done an incredible job of diversifying this community. To make us perhaps the most unique economy in all of Texas. And on behalf of your friends in the South Tyler Rotary, we want to honor you by making you a Paul Harris Fellow.
Wow.
I'm going to ask your friend and my friend John Hart to put your pin. Thanks, Tom.
This is not just any honor, Tom. This means that the club has felt that you were important enough to us to have donated $1,000 to the Rotary Foundation in your name.
Thank you.
And you join a large number of successful businessmen across this country who are now Paul Harris Fellows. I hope you'll wear it proud.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And now we will do John Hart. And John Hart today becomes a +5. And Jeff Johnson, who becomes a +4. And for anyone who doesn't know, what that means is that these two gentlemen have donated in their honor 5,000 or 6,000 actually, or 5,000 individually. And we're proud of them and the continuing support of the foundation. And now, come back up here and let's get a picture.
Yeah, let's not.
You get the medal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now, for the record, would all of the Paul Harris scholars in the room please stand and be recognized? Thank you.
It was kind of fun, a couple weeks ago, I received a huge package of pens. What was it, 12 or 15, Tom? 15, either Paul Harris originating fellows or those who have received the plus. And I took a picture of it and I shared it on our Facebook page. And it went crazy. I mean, I think over 1,000 people have looked at it because I just said, hey, just a little bit of bling that we're giving out at our Rotary meeting. And you could just tell all across the Rotary world, they're like, wow, look at what South Tyler Rotary did. And I give that to Tom DeWitt because Tom DeWitt is the one who drives this for us. So thank you, Tom, for all you do. So we got a couple of announcements before we turn over to our program. So Stephen, if you want to come up, John, if you want to come up, we've already talked about the orientation. I mentioned that there's a meeting next week. We've had a great person doing our bulletin for the last year and a half, Pam Jacobson. She has decided that her work schedule is too complicated, so she's going to be giving it up in November. So we're looking for somebody who's willing to take on the duties of putting together the bulletin. It is a weekly task, but I provide a lot of the content. A lot of the content already comes from the website. So if you're interested, let me know. It takes all of us, and I'm not that down because we would assume you would continue on into that year. Stephen.
Thank you. A lot of y'all may remember a couple of weeks ago, we voted to send $2,500 to Beirut, Lebanon, to help out with the horrendous disaster that they had there in their port facility. That started a very long odyssey where we were tracking down people. Things are not in real good shape there, as you can imagine. I was finally able to get in touch with the president of the Beirut Cosmopolitan Club. It's an English-speaking club. And if you ever get a chance, it's really interesting. Look them up on the internet. They've got quite a website. They're very active. But just to let you know, the idea for this was Mr. John Hartz. He called me on a Saturday, and I thought it was wonderful. I received help from Mr. Tom DeWitt and Mr. Tom Seal, because I can assure you, it's not easy being completely 100% sure where the money's going when it goes into Beirut, Lebanon, as you can imagine. But I can also tell you that considering the amount of effort that was put into checking everything out, I think this club's money is in very, very good hands. I'd like to thank everybody that was involved with it. The president of the Cosmopolitan Club, his first name is Habib. I have gone back and forth with emails with him, and he was very, very grateful. From what they tell me, the situation there is, the best word I could come up with would be apocalyptic, if I said that right. But you know what I'm talking about. It's bad. But this is going to help. And again, I'd like to thank the club. I've always said this club has always been beyond generous, and it looks like that tradition's continuing. Thank you again.
Thank you, Stephen. As you guys probably know, October 24th is World Polio Day, and South Tyler Rotary is doing a fun project to help raise awareness and funds for polio, and Vaughn's going to talk to us about that.
And it must be the day, because I want to say thank you to Tom DeWitt, because he's the one that got me pushed into this role. And I was volunteered for it, I must say, but it's been a pleasure. October 22nd is a Thursday night. We are going to have our addition to fundraise for Polio Plus. And Mundo and his family have opened up all of their restaurants and allowing us to have all of our family, our friends, our Rotarians to participate in having our dinners or our lunches there. And they're going to be generating portions of their revenue back to us as well. We're all going to have a table at each restaurant, handing out polio information and taking donations from anyone that shows up. So just want to encourage you all. I will be sending out a generic email to all of you, but maybe use your own personal Facebook time, LinkedIn time, whatever social media you use to invite your friends, your family, ask them to go out on October 22nd to either Bill Montez, Creekside Montez, or 1836, and just participate because you're all going to like there anyway. So just take your family with you, get some of your friends to join you, come have dinner with us. Oh yeah, last week I sent around a sign-up sheet, and about a third of it is done. So I'm going to do it again this week since we won't be here next week. So if you could, if you find a place on there that works best for you, please help and sit at one of the tables with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Don.
There you go.
Don, I know you just walked in the door, so I don't want to put you on the spot too much. Carol had to leave. Do you want to announce anything in regards to the Can Food Drive? While he is doing that, I'm gonna do another quick shout out to the end of the room, not to Tom DeWitt this time. Sorry, Tom. I mean, you know I love you, but to Michael Hershey, and you'll see that Michael is sitting up there next to Tom DeWitt. Michael has agreed to help out with the assistant treasurer duties as needed, as well as he is helping coordinate the Wyler program for us this year. So thank you, Michael. Oh.
All right, thank you guys. We are doing a canned food drive this month. So free cans on Mondays. If you can't make it to a meeting, you've got cans, let us know. We'll coordinate picking it up for you. We'll make it as easy as possible for you. And then make plans. Monday, October 26th, from 5:15 to 8:15. We're doing the canned food drive all month, and then we're gonna package food at the East Texas Food Bank. So we can get back that way. I'm looking forward to actually serving with you guys and doing something fun together. So mark your calendars and make plans for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Dalton, and if you'll help box up everything that's back there before you leave today, that would be great. So at this point, I'm going to, well, before I turn it over, in case you guys are interested, you might have seen that I opened up a little bag over here, payday candy bars. October is Economic and Community Development Month, sponsored by Rotary. Rotary recognizes it. And I try to come up with a few little things that go along with each particular month. If you remember, I had the M&Ms during membership month for membership more. So I thought about giving everybody 100 grand, the candy bars, not really money, the candy bars. But I had a hard time finding them. So instead, everybody's going to get payday today. So it'd be like a payday, which everybody wants payday. They're right here on the table. That being said, can I call up John Hart to introduce our guest speakers?
Thank you, Dave. Today will be the first day of a series of small business and economic development programs. And it is my great pleasure today to introduce you to my close friend, Tom Mullins. As you know, I have had Tom come speak to our club many times about this time of the year because I do a month of small business every year. And you have his bio and his introduction in your newsletter that you got from Diane. So I'm not going to go over all of the details, but I will just tell you this. In 1989, the City Fathers in Tyler, Texas made a very good decision to bring Tom Mullins from Rochester, Minnesota to Tyler, Texas. And he has now served the Tyler Economic Development Council and the Tyler Chamber of Commerce as Chief Executive Officer and President for over 30 years, 31 years. His last day was Thursday, this past Thursday, I guess. The 30th. The 30th, okay? And he is here today to tell you what's going on with TEDC and the Chamber, and also to introduce you to his successor, who has big shoes to fill, Scott Martinez. And Tom will tell you more about Scott. I want to add one more thing. Tom and I have been good tennis friends for years. We played tennis many, many times together. But in 2000, I took over a little fledgling nothing of an organization called Greater Texas Capital Corporation. And we moved into the Blackstone building downtown. And Tom was my very first recruit as a director of that organization. And Tom has served as director of Greater Texas Capital for 20 years and rolled off the board in September 30th. So I have a great debt of gratitude to pay to Tom, but the whole city and the whole county and all of East Texas and even all of Texas has a great debt to pay to Tom Mullins. Tom, come up. Say what you're
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that kind introduction. Thanks for having me back. Diane, keep me honest here with this microphone so everybody can hear me. Scott and I looked at each other when we said this is October is National or Rotarian Economic Development Month. We didn't know that, did we, Scott? That's good to know. Thanks for supporting economic and community development as an organization all over the world. Also, thanks to John and Tom and Jeff for the Paul Harris recognition. Very much appreciated. And Roberto, well, I'm impressed with your background, your resume. 4 languages. I speak Minnesotan and East Texas. That's all I got. But very impressive. Great to have you here. We do a lot of work with Delk. Brad Franz, a lot of the key players over there are involved in the community and active. Members of our economic development groups, we work closely with Delk. A lot of people don't appreciate Delk. They are the largest property taxpayer in Smith County. That operation they have in the northeastern part of the city is huge investment. And we're very fortunate to have them. They're very high skilled. 250 plus direct jobs, another, depending on the time of the year and the cycle of your upgrades, another 200 or 300 contract people come in to this market and work on projects. So we appreciate Delk a lot. I'm gonna go over some slides as I've done in the past to talk to you about what's going on in the economy locally and how we're doing compared to some others. This group is always very active in the community, and y'all have some great questions. So I want to allow time for that. But
It's behind you, yeah. There you go.
Scott Martinez, right there. Let me just give you a little more background on him. He was selected the end of July to replace me as the CEO of the Economic Development Council and the Chamber of Commerce. He's president CEO of the EBC, CEO of the Chamber. Some of you knew, a lot of people didn't know that we've had a 70-30 split over the years with my tenure, and that's split still in place. It's changed, the ratio's changed to 9-10. Henry Bell is still this, he has been the chief operating officer of the Chamber. He's now becoming the president of the Chamber, and Scott will be the CEO. And he's been president of the North Louisiana Economic Development Partnership for the past 7 years. Had offices in Shreveport and Monroe, covered 11,000 square miles of northern Louisiana, and very similar structure to the Economic Development Council. Again, TDC is not a part of the city government or county government. We are an investor supported organization, and Scott's organization was the same in Louisiana. And so he's been there for 7 years, but he's had experience in Texas. His undergraduate, he grew up, I had a lot of learning to do when I came from Rochester, Minnesota to Tyler, Texas. He grew up in the South, though. He was born in Laurel, Mississippi. Some of you might have heard that name over the last few years. It happens to be the headquarters
of a large new company that just invested here called Sanderson Farms. In fact, Scott knows the Sanderson family. He went to Ole Miss for his undergrad, got his master's degree from Southern Miss, but his first job was in Texas. He was hired in 1999 for the Conroe Economic Development Group. Worked there for how many years there? 5 years there, and then he was recruited back to Mississippi at state level economic development position, and then recruited back again after several years in Mississippi to Texas, where he went to Round Rock and then to Hutto. And in Hutto, one of your members is a very close friend of Scott's and partner in economic development in Hutto for 5 years, and that's Ed Broussard, our current city manager, and Scott worked together in the past. So, and I think that was kind of a help. When I saw Scott's name come up on the final list for candidates, I said, that's the guy. If we can get him, that's the guy we want. But I think it was helpful for Scott to be able to talk to Ed Broussard and say, what's Tyler really like? Give me the on Chamber of Commerce point of view on things. And Scott's been, Ed's been a great city manager for us and he's a great partner in economic development, and told Scott he would make a great decision if he came this way, and he did. So we're happy to have you, Scott. Anything you want to say this is a way of saying hello to this group?
First of all, I feel very privileged to be here, very humbled to be following Tom Mullins in this role. I'm not replacing Tom. No one can replace Tom Mullins. I'm simply following him, which is hard. But, you look at Tyler, you look at Smith County, we're better educated, we're younger. You look at the industries and the diversification of our economy is very attractive to me as an economic development coming into this role. And looking at it from an external lens, this is a tremendous community. Again, I look forward to getting here, getting to know you all, the people that I haven't, many of y'all have already met and interacted with. But again, privileged to be here and humbled to be following such an icon in economic development as Tom Mullins.
Thanks. Okay, so let's go over some of these slides and show you what's happening in the economy. Just by way of background, this is the strategy that we adopted when we started the program back in 1989. Target primary employers, companies that make something here like a Delic, but they sell it multiple states or nationally. Companies like Trane make air conditioning units here, but they sell it all over the country. That brings new money back in. And then rank order, retaining and expanding existing companies, helping new ones get started, attracting companies, and creation of incentives and infrastructure. And down below there are some of the companies that made headlines in the last few years: Highland Dairy, Fisher Licious, Sanderson Farms, Caterpillar Company, the Wyoming Caterpillar Company that went on to Highway 64 West, Trade, of course, Jasper Ventures. So those are some of our most recent projects. And here's the impact that we've had over 30 years: 182 different projects with primary companies, over 12,000 new primary jobs, 15,000 jobs retained that could have easily gone to other parts of the country. New investment, 1.2 billion, and almost 5 million square feet of new construction. So that's one thing that people like Scott and I like about economic development. It's very tangible. You see your projects built, you see construction, you see jobs created, you see families have an improved lifestyle. These are some other things. Colleen Colby called me a few weeks ago and said she wanted to talk about some of the projects that we get involved in here. There's one, she said, you were around when Toll 49 first got started. I said, I was around when it was called the Outer Loop. Before the toll option was even available. But these are projects that we can contribute to making Tyler more competitive. Now, we're not as easy to accomplish. Building a new terminal on Collins Field, the Outer Loop for Toll 49, TJC's Skills Center and Energy Center on the Southwest Loop, We became retirement friendly. 4-year status for UT Tyler. It sounds like, what's the big deal about that? It took us 3 sessions to get that approved by the Texas legislature. And this community was split right in half. You either supported UT Tyler, which at that time was junior, senior, or you supported the junior college. No middle ground. And we said, yeah, there's middle ground. We think if you expand to 4 years, you'll both benefit. And that's what happened. TJC at the time was about 7,000 students. It's now over 12,000. UT Tyler was kind of flatlined at 3,000 students. It's now over 10,000. And we have 1,000 students at Texas College. We now have 24,000 full-time college students in Tyler. And that makes a big difference. They have an impact just spending money as students in the economy, but they also provide skills for companies that are looking to invest in our area. We've become an educational destination. Career and Technology Center. And I think, and these are, a couple of other ones that were fun. We passed a passing sales tax for infrastructure, back in the mid-90s, and that's paid cash for a lot of projects. And we also organized the effort to bring Tyler kicking and screaming into the 20th century and pass the wet by-election. So many people in this community think that's my #1 accomplishment. Other people will hate me forever. Cheers, Nick says. Salute. So this is some of the stuff that's going to impact us in the future. I mean, you heard these fabulous announcements starting last fall and then through the early part of this year. UT System Board of Regents committed $95 million for a $35 million advanced nursing facility, $60 million graduate medical education. On February 6th, Board Chairman Kevin Elton, our former mayor and state senator, who's now the chairman of the Board of Regents for UT Tyler, announced plans for a medical school in Tyler. We've worked with Ray Kerman, the economist. That medical school will create about 18,000 direct and indirect jobs in the economy over a 10-year period, and will on an annual basis have about a $1.1 billion economic impact. They also had $80 million from the ETMC Foundation. When ETMC went out of business and became the partnership with Arden and UT System, the foundation did not go away. And they had dollars accumulated that they pledged to this medical school. And then in February, the UT Board of Regents voted to establish a school for Tyler. And that's still being planned. It's going to require some steps to be taken by the legislature and the Higher Education Coordinating Board, but it's very much in motion. And it's going to happen. It's going to have a huge long-term impact. Let me just talk about some trends that we track all the time. Our population for Towson County, we are an MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. We're currently about 233,000. Not sure how the census is going to come out. I mean, it's going to be higher, obviously, but not sure how high. And that's always a challenge because getting the census completed, I think we're currently, from what I heard, Nick, I think you might be on that committee. What is, were you about 60% in terms of the completion average?
Yes, and they cut the time back, so it ended.
Ended sooner? Yeah. Nick was saying for those that are live streaming here that not only are we still short of getting a full count around the 60% level, but instead of having till the end of October, I know there's a legal debate going on, but it's going to be about this week might be the last week you can go out.
And it's 2020, who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might get fixed.
Yeah. So we could come in around $250,000 in terms of the MSA. It's pretty evenly split between Tyler and Smith County. But we are the regional growth center. I tell people all the time, if you put a map of Texas in your brain and you think of Interstate 35 going down the middle and Houston on the bottom, That whole eastern part of the state, there is one major regional growth center, and that's Tyler. We are the largest population center, we're the fastest growing, we're the most diverse economy. And I think we've got the building blocks for future growth and development well established. Here's something else I find interesting. The average age is currently 33.1 years. You know, we did such a good job marketing Tyler's retirement center. Everybody thinks we're old. We're not. The average age is 33 years. And there are several others. Waco, Longview have joined those categories. That are getting younger. Midland is the other one I was trying to think. Midland, Waco, and Tyler are in low 30s, low mid 30s. Labor force, we're up 2.3%, almost 110,000. We are a regional labor center. That's why you're in a line of cars in the morning and in the evening every single day. Unemployment is up because of the COVID. I mean, it's up everywhere, but we're lower than the state and the national averages. Our unemployment rate is about 6% now. It jumped up to about 11% earlier this summer. And the U.S. average is about just under 8%, and Texas is just under 7%, and we're 6%. But that's typical. Tyler Smith County is usually a point or a point and a half below the state and the national averages. Building permit activity has been strong. It's down this year, but there's still a lot of activity going on. It's down about 18% so far this year. We're hoping we'll see an uptick this fall because they track that through the end of the calendar year. Building permit activity. This is a typical cycle. These numbers are dollar values of building permits is driven by big projects, you know, like if the hospitals do a major project, or one of large companies come in and do a major investment, you'll see these numbers jump up. And the other thing that people don't realize, when you see that building activity going on like at UT Tyler on the campus, it doesn't count in our numbers because the UT system has their own permitting system. And so Tyler doesn't count those millions of dollars that are constructed on the UT campus. But those values are down about 31% this year compared to the previous year. Home sales, this is fascinating. Some of you are in the real estate business here locally. Despite all this turmoil in this economy, the home sales are up 5% this year. People are getting multiple offers on houses that have been on the market just a few days. So it's really been a hot market for home sales. The average price has gone up over $263,000. That's the average price of a home sold, not all homes in the economy and the community. That's good news, bad news. You're getting your price or more if you got multiple bids on your house. It's bad news if you're a young family trying to get started because it's getting pricey to enter the market. Sales tax allocation, even with the downturn in entertainment and travel and restaurants and services, on and on and on, it's only down by about 0.5% this year. And not to mention the energy sector has been flat this year for international and economic reasons in this country. So here's hotel occupancy. They really got hit. They're down by 22% this year. Airport activity down by almost 42%. People just nervous about traveling. Although I know many people in this room travel. I have a friend who's an internist who shared an interesting fact with me about airplane travel. He said it's actually very safe because the air is circulated so rapidly in an airplane that people are not seeing cases as a result of traveling on airplanes. They're seeing them for other crowd interaction, not involving airport travel. But the impression is you're in a tube at 30,000 feet with a whole bunch of other people, you're going to get sick. But may not be the case. Here's something we're very proud of. Per capita personal income, compared to other cities our size, Waco, Waterloo, Abilene, Wichita Falls, the average per capita personal income in Smith County, Tyler MSA now is over $55,000. That is above the U.S. average of $54,000 and very close to bigger cities that have been exploding in growth, like Dallas, which is just over $55,000. So that means people have more take-home income and able to buy things, homes, cars, take care of their families. Cost of living continues to be under the national average of 100. We're consistently down in the low 90s. So if you come into this market as someone who's trying to start a career or grow in a career, you're going to get a higher income with a lower cost of living. That's a good combination. Nothing. And Scott, we reminded him, is moving from an income tax state to a non-income tax state. So what you get about an 8% raise automatically because of that? Between here and Louisiana?
I hope so.
All right. So the economic outlook, this is what Ray Kerman told us in January when he was here for the outlook. But because of the pandemic, he said we're going to end up losing almost 7,000 jobs in 2020 and $2.3 billion in output losses. But he says, and he and most economists are saying this is not going to be a V-shaped recovery. It's going to be a U-shaped recovery. We had a precipitous drop. It's going to take a while, and then it's going to come back up. In 2021, he's predicting an additional almost 7,000 job increase and $2.1 billion in recovery. So we get a lot of what we lost this year back by the middle and end of next year. Here's what's driving us now. Tom DeWitt said it in his introductory comments. We are a much more diverse economy. You know, when I first came here, it was energy, agriculture, and some manufacturing. These are the drivers now. We're a regional medical center, center for higher education. We're a retail hub, financial center, manufacturing, distribution, still strong. Retirees, tourism, technology, regional government, and just off the bottom you can see, we're still an energy center. We're just not as dependent on it as we had been historically. This is my new gig. DG Mullins Consulting. Mission, provide guidance, technical support, local, regional, state efforts to diversify economies and create job opportunities. And that's what happened last week. I stepped down September 30 at the end of the fiscal year for our organization. Scott started October 1. I'm contracting back for 60 days to help Scott meet folks like you in this room and others around Tyler Smith County and East Texas. And then I've got some other contracts that are pending to be involved with regional medical activities, the medical school, and some other projects that I think are going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to stay here. You know, I've got 2 grandgirls here. You know, we're not leaving them. So that's my presentation. That's a snapshot of what's going on in the Tyler economy. What questions do you have, Bernie? Yep. Hold on. Oh, I'm sorry. He's got a comment first.
I can't take, didn't miss the opportunity to tell you that Tyler Economic Development got a $780,000 grant from EDA, Economic Development Administration, to provide COVID assistance for any small business that still needs help after they got the PPP money. So we're providing grants, so they're providing grants, $15,000 to $50,000 for anybody that still needs help with their employment and with their recovery after COVID. I didn't want to miss that.
Thank you, Johnny. Yeah, that's a good catch. We operate 2 revolving loans. We've had one for over 20 years. That's targeted for primary employers, smaller companies that make products. This new one can be more general in nature to retail service, manufacturing, distribution, whatever. And I also forgot to say, one of the things I'm going to do with Scott's background development on this in this market is also work on some projects. We currently have 19 projects ongoing that we're working with, and they've already created almost 1,500 new primary jobs, invested over 180 million. And we have 3 prospects right now. Well, one of them actually has already moved here and is ramping up. Waste Equip. They're on the east side of town, the former Hal Baker facility. They manufacture waste containers. They go see a construction site. But that'll be 133 high-skilled jobs. But we're on the short list. It's down to us and one other Texas location for a 1,000 employee distribution project. And we're the lead site for 150 employee manufacturing company that we're going to be visiting directly and touring their plant later on this week. But that'll be almost 1,300 new primary jobs and about 190 million in new investment. That's what's in the pipeline right now that we're passing out to Scott to hopefully close on. Now,
Can you add a little color to the medical school situation? And in particular, the projected location of that facility?
yeah, we get that question a lot. Where's it going to go? And there's going to be downtown. Now, the definition of downtown, it doesn't mean it's going to be on the square or near the square. Most likely it's going to be on the medical campus. And you've all, the lead site in my mind, and this is Tom Mullins projecting here. I don't have this confirmed. But you know when you're on Becker and you're heading downtown and you go underneath the pedestrian bridge, there's a little open area there to the right, just north of Lake Street and just to the east of Becker. That's a potential site that's been talked about because half of that block is flat and empty. The other half has a lot of single-story older buildings on it that can be cleared out pretty easily. So you get all the way from Beckham over to Flushel and north of Lake, you get pretty much a full block there. But it would have to be a high-rise, you know, especially if you were going to build offices with convenient parking to it. So that, in my mind, is a lead site. And it further strengthens the connection between the medical district and what's going on with TJC and skills nursing and medical training just further down on the project. So that's the best information that I have on that location, but it still hasn't been finalized. Yes, Roberto.
You're seeing actually the city is going to tendency to use more renewables, use more solar energy. For example, I saw that when I was living in Denver, I'm seeing actually happening in Austin. I know we have the same philosophy here in Thailand. What is the perspective? Are we going to be more environmentally friendly city or?
Oh, I think so. There's some interesting projects going on in the city and the University Engineering School in terms of capturing methane from the landfills here. I think you're going to see more emphasis on compressed natural gas. We already have a station that's dedicated to that in the center of downtown. And there are going to be some huge solar farms that are developed in East Texas, Northeast Texas in particular. And I think we're all going to benefit from that kind of investment and those kinds of alternative clean energy projects. We're not working on any one big project at this point, but we think that's just a matter of time. That process has been unleashed, and I think it's going to continue.
Time for maybe one more question? For you, Nick?
What are some of the thoughts, and Scott, maybe you can chime in too, but what are the thoughts with 23,000 college students and obviously the growth of the medical school coming? What are some of the ways you think we can combat like a brain drain? Because we've got outstanding public schools, charter schools, private schools, the CPC, you know, the road to get into a 4-year through TJC. What are some of the best practices that you've seen to combat?
You know, for our friends live streaming here, the question is, what else can we do to combat the brain drain in this community and keep talent here and attract talent? Let me tell you, we started in 1994 and then we updated it 10 years later in 2004. And then in 2010, one of the projects that Scott's going to be taking on is our next vision process. What vision do we want for this community, Tyler and Smith County combined, in terms of growing into the future from a business perspective? We're not looking at it from any kind of a charitable or nonprofit or solely educational, but what is it from that businesses need to be successful, to grow here and be attractive here? And one of the things that came out early, Nick, was we need to become an educational destination. Because at that time, with the 2+2 structure that we had, 2 years Tyler Junior College, 2 years UT Tyler, we had a lot of people who wanted a 4-year experience. They were leaving. It was estimated to be several thousand students a year. So by becoming a full-year institution with graduate programs, and the Souls College of Business out there has 2,400 students. That's the largest college at UT Tyler. Engineering and computer science, we have all the disciplines of engineering: civil, mechanical, electrical, and chemical. Yeah, yours, Roberta, you would know that, right? So that is attracting talent. So I think we've gotten on the right track to not only stop the draining of brains to other parts of the country. Because if someone goes off for experience in another part of the country, a lot of times they stay there. But when they come back, when they want to start a family, our phone starts ringing. What's going on in Tyler? We've been living in this big urban area where fill in the blank, but we want the quality of life of Tyler to come back to. But why go through that step? Why not keep that talent as aggressively we can and not force them to leave the region to get that education? I think we're on track to do that, but that's ongoing, Nick. We can't relax and think we're there. That's got to be, we've got to work. That's why we work so hard to pass these bond issues. You go around the 24 campuses in this community, TISD alone, not counting what's happening in Lindale, White House, and some of the other school districts, have built new campuses or have remodeled the campuses. That CTC, the Career Technology Center on Earl Campbell Parkway, when Scott was doing the community tour, we took him on that parkway, and he said, wow, what a presentation this makes to people coming into this community, to not only see the focus on career tech training, but to see the upscale feel of what this community can look like. When we started, that was just a big old empty sandpit for decades. And now it's a technology center. Were you in that sandpit, Wayne? We're nodding knowingly here. But I think we're on track, Nick, but we can't relax and be complacent. I've taken all your time. Thanks for having me again.
And announce the last 4 digits.
All right. They are 5186.
5186. All right. Jared. All right. Beth, sorry, you got my attention earlier and I forgot to bring it. Tom, thank you so much for presenting to us. I know that you're officially retired now, but we're glad that you honored us with one of your last presentations.
Thanks for having me.
And Scott, welcome to Tyler, and be watching for a phone call in October from John Hart, because or September to line up our speakers, because as he said, it'll be your turn, but we can use Tom as well. While Beth is coming up here, and Tom, I was going to tell you, I actually like to take credit for Tyler getting the alcohol sales.
Or you too.
Yeah, well, okay, so I moved here on October 28th, 2012. Okay, so the election was the next week. Little did I know, like 30 days before moving here, that this was a dry county. And I turned around and I looked at my husband and like with tears in my eyes, what? I never want my family and friends to visit. So I like to take credit because a week later, it became what?
And after being behind the curve for 80 years, that passed by 70%. This community was ready.
All right, I know it's after 1 o'clock, so I'll keep this super brief, but I've had a fabulous week. Tom, I had to pull out my Rochester accent too, although I was in St. Paul. So I was in Minnesota My lovely daughter married Native American with the Ojibwe tribe on Saturday. It was a beautiful Native American ceremony. So if you want to hear it sometime, I would be happy to show pictures and tell you about it. But I did have the pleasure of joining the Roseville Rotary Club for lunch. And they don't do banners, they do pins. So I present President Diane with the Roseville, Minnesota Rotary pin. Things are really still very different in Minnesota, very locked down. Their club was 80, there were about maybe 20 of us in the room, the rest through Zoom meetings. But it was interesting to have that experience with another club and until my next trip.
And while you're up here, when's the last day to register? And we will conclude with the four-way test.
Please stand. The four-way test are the things we think, say, and do. First. Second. Third. And fourth.
Let me know the all of them.